Welcome back to the CryptoWorld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is pulling back after this bearish signal confirmed to liquidate a lot of long positions, which I talked about yesterday. But right now, the price is running into critical support alongside Ethereum, which also pulled back from a bearish signal, but is now running into short-term support, which I'll talk about later in the video. So definitely watch to the end. First of all, just giving you a really quick update here on the weekly Bitcoin chart, and over the last one day, we have now seen a weekly candle close confirm above that resistance at around $42,000. And so technically speaking, on the weekly chart, that breakout above 42K is now confirmed, but obviously as soon as we saw that weekly candle close above 42K, we saw a retest of that level, and at least as of right now, we're still retesting that level at around 42,000. And now, if we end up holding that level as support on the weekly time frame, which means not seeing any weekly candle closes back below 42,000, then the next significant resistance to pay attention to on the weekly time frame is sitting at around 48 to 49,000. So at least for now, 42K should be acting as a bit of short-term support. But in a more bearish scenario, if we actually see a confirmed break back below 42K with weekly candle closes back below 42,000, then in that case, the next area of support is sitting in between around 36,000 to 38,000 here on the weekly chart. And obviously, despite the short-term pullback here on the weekly chart, we are very much still within the larger bullish trend, forming significant higher lows and higher highs. And obviously, during a bullish trend, we can experience pullbacks from time to time. That is very normal to see. And if we're taking a look at the daily Bitcoin chart, once again, as I've been saying recently on the channel, we do have a bearish divergence forming. And over the last one day, we have now seen some more confirmation for this bearish divergence, because obviously we've seen a further pullback in the RSI, actually cementing the lower high in place in the RSI. And so as I've been saying recently on the channel, if this bearish divergence further confirms, which it has now done, of course, we should now be expecting a reduced bullish momentum, at least for the next 1 to 2 weeks or so, which means we're most likely going to see either some choppy sideways price action, if not a bit more of a pullback within the next 1 to 2 weeks or so. And now, once again, this does not necessarily guarantee that the bullish trend is completely over and we're about to begin a new bearish trend. Once again, this does not necessarily mean that we could just see a pause or a break within the bullish trend before continuing the trend later on. Because at least for now, on the daily time frame, we have not yet broken the bullish price structure. At least for now, we're still forming higher lows and higher highs on the daily time frame, which is technically a bullish trend. And if you're taking a look at the daily Bitcoin MACD, of course, just recently we have lost some bullish momentum with the histogram now declining, but we have not yet confirmed a bearish cross in this indicator. So at least for now, it is still looking more bullish than bearish, like the price structure. And so once again, as the most likely scenario on the daily time frame, we're just due to see a bit of a pause or setback from the bullish trend before potentially continuing the trend later on. And now there is another potential signal that could point towards a trend reversal from a short-term bullish trend here on the daily chart into a short-term bearish trend, like what we saw just here or just here, for example. And that signal is, of course, the DXY or US dollar index. That's the red line right here with the Bitcoin price here in the candlesticks on the daily time frame. And once again, as I've been saying over the last 1 to 2 weeks, just recently on the channel, we have started to see a bounce in the DXY, which is technically a bearish signal for Bitcoin. But at least for now, the DXY has not really confirmed a full-on bullish reversal, because at least for now, we have not really confirmed any higher lows or higher highs in place to confirm a new bullish trend in the DXY. But of course, if this bounce continues into more of a bullish trend, forming higher lows and higher highs, then that would be the signal pointing towards a short-term trend reversal in the price from bullish back to bearish. And just to clarify, a short-term trend is different from a longer-term trend on the weekly chart. So of course, a short-term bearish trend can still occur within the larger bullish trend, because obviously a few times this year, we have seen some short-term bearish trends, like for example, back here and also back here. Obviously, the price was trending in the bearish direction for a couple of months or so. But if you're zooming out on the weekly chart, obviously they are just pullbacks within the larger bullish trend. And so to separate the different timeframes, of course, once again, on the much larger timeframes like the weekly chart, I'm still very bullish on the trend. Of course, once again, we can see some pullbacks during a bullish trend. And as for the daily time frame, at least for now, we have not yet confirmed a trend reversal from bullish back to bearish. So at least for now, we're still technically within the bullish trend on the daily chart, the short-term bullish trend. It's just we're due to see a bit of a break from that trend. But of course, the signal that could change that is if the DXY DXY continues to bounce back to the upside and forms more of a bullish trend in the DXY, because if we see that, then once again, we should expect more of a short-term bearish trend, which is basically a slightly larger pullback here on the weekly time frame within the larger bullish trend. And if we're zooming into the slightly shorter term, looking at the 6-hour Bitcoin chart, obviously just recently we've seen multiple perfect rejections exactly from this Fibonacci level of resistance, which I've been talking about on the channel. Once again, this Fibonacci extension is sitting at around 44.2k to 44.3k. And as you can see here on the 6-hour Bitcoin chart, the price of Bitcoin basically rejected from that level the first time around. Then we came back to retest that level, saw another perfect rejection, no candle closes above this resistance. And so because we did not confirm a breakout above that resistance with candle closes, once again, we saw another rejection. And as I've said it recently on the channel, we could have a bit of short-term support at around 43,000, but because the price broke below 43,000, the next more important level of support is this Fibonacci level, which is sitting at around 41.8k to 42k, which is exactly where the price is now holding above. And now, obviously, we did see a wick to the downside, just a candle wick, but at least for now, in terms of the candle closes, we are now holding above this Fibonacci level, sitting closer towards 42,000. And so at least for now, once again, in the short term, that is the support to pay attention to, once again, in between around 41.8k to 42k. But if we end up seeing a confirmed break back below 41.8k, then in that case, we could retest these lows just here, basically retrace through this entire candle wick and find some support at around 40,000. And also we have this Fibonacci level of support at around 39,500. And as for short-term resistance, if we see a bounce from this Fibonacci level of support, then in that case, I would expect some short-term resistance at around 43,000. Once again, previous support flipping into new resistance. And of course, if we see a breakout back above 43,000, once again, still expect resistance around this Fibonacci level, which is what I've been saying recently on the channel, at around 44.2k to 44.3k, exactly where we found resistance as expected. And if we're taking a look at the 4-hour Bitcoin chart, obviously also, as I've been warning about over the last few days here on the channel, we do have a short-term bearish signal repeating. And of course, this bearish signal is a bearish divergence on the 4-hour chart, which did already confirm, as I said in my last video. So expect a pullback as one of the most likely scenarios in the short term. And obviously, we've seen exactly that, also like what we saw back here. But once again, pullbacks can occur within a bullish trend. And so obviously, if we bounce right here and continue further to the upside, of course, we can remain within the bullish trend. That is very normal to see. But once again, due to the fact that we now have a bearish divergence, not just playing out on the 4-hour chart, but also now active here on the daily time frame. Of course, on the larger time frames, these patterns and signals play out for longer and usually result in larger moves. And so, like I said earlier in the video, I would not really be expecting a lot of bullish momentum within the next 1 to 2 weeks or so, because we're most likely going to see reduced bullish momentum in the form of either a sideways consolidation or potentially a bit more of a pullback in the price within the next 1 to 2 weeks or so as a result of this bearish divergence. But once again, that can still occur within the bullish trend. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, obviously over the last 1 day, we did liquidate a lot of those positions to the downside, which is what I talked about in my last video. And now when it comes to the liquidation heat map, of course, in my last video, even though I was expecting a pullback of some sort, of course, I was not expecting a pullback of this size just based on the liquidation heat map. But of course, either way, we still ended up seeing a pullback as expected to liquidate those positions to the downside. And so right now, we don't really have a lot of liquidity immediately to the downside. But if we're zooming into a smaller time frame, we can see some liquidity still sitting at around 41,500, which means potentially the price could double dip and hit around 41,500 before potentially bouncing back up again. Because if you zoom back out on this 3-day time frame, looking at the last 3 days worth of history, we can actually see more liquidations, more liquidity building up at around 44.3k to 44.4k. And so basically, this move to the downside could have just been a liquidation move to liquidate a lot of positions to the downside. Once again, we still have some liquidation positions further to the downside, which we could hit. But once again, potentially after double dipping down towards around 41,500 to liquidate those positions right there, we could end up seeing a larger bounce back to the upside to liquidate those higher positions. But potentially that larger bounce back to the upside might not happen immediately. It might not happen even within the next 1 to 2 weeks, because once again, we still have that bearish divergence we need to keep in mind now here on the daily time frame. And just giving you a quick update on my Bitcoin trade, obviously I did long the price of Bitcoin starting all the way back down here for this previous ascending triangle pattern breakout. And as I've been updating here in these these videos basically every day. I did close a decent amount of that long position around the technical price targets for the breakout for this ascending triangle pattern, but I did keep some of that long position remaining open as the price continued further to the upside. And as I've also said here on these videos, of course, I did move my stop loss further into profits so that in the worst case scenario, if we see a quick dump like what we just saw, obviously that will trigger my stop loss and exit me out of the trade in profits. And so that's basically exactly what has now happened. Obviously, with this quick dump to the downside, that hit my stop loss in profits and closed my long position in profits. And so obviously, congrats to those of you who did follow along with this trade, because for example, if you did what I did, then right now you'll be closed out of the trade in massive profits from an entry price all the way back down here. And so of course, right now I will be looking out for the next trade to take, but at least as of right now, there's no clear trades to take because we've just seen a major move. But potentially as new signals or patterns form, of course, I'll be sharing that here on the channel with any potential new trades. And so obviously make sure you subscribe to this channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on the next major trading opportunity. And of course, make sure you set up ready to go with an exchange in order to take the next trade. And if you use a Bybit using the link down below this video, you can claim up to a $30,000 deposit bonus, but only if you use that link down below this video. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you can't KYC on Bybit, then make sure to check out Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitflex. And so I'll also make sure to leave a link to Bitflex in the description down below and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, you can deposit $100 worth of crypto and make one trade over on Bitflex and claim 10 USDT completely for free. And so if you're trading crypto anyway, or if you're preparing to take the next trade, then make sure to set up with one of those accounts if you want to claim those extra bonuses. Once again, links down below. But anyway, getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this is on the weekly time frame, and over the last one day, we have now seen another weekly candle close above this significant resistance. And so technically speaking, this is just further confirming the bullish breakout from the bullish ascending triangle pattern here on the weekly time frame. And ever since this latest weekly candle close, obviously we've seen a short-term pullback retesting previous resistance, which is now acting as new support. And the top side of this resistance, which is now acting as support, is sitting at around 2150. And so, like I said, with Bitcoin, of course, on the larger time frames, we're still technically looking bullish despite the short-term pullback. And if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, obviously, we also have a bearish divergence here for the price of ETH with higher highs in the price and lower highs in the RSI. And obviously, now that we're seeing a decent pullback here in the daily Ethereum RSI, this is helping to confirm the lower high in place, which is confirming the actual bearish divergence. And so, once again, what this means is we're due to see a reduced bullish momentum potentially over the next 1 to 2 weeks. So essentially, we should be expecting either some choppy sideways price action, if not a bit more of a pullback within the next 1 to 2 weeks or so as the most likely outcome. And as of right now, for support on the daily time frame, we have this previous area of resistance now acting as new support, which is sitting in between around 2100 going up towards around 2150. And once again, just recently, we've seen a perfect retest of this previous area of resistance, once again, now acting as new support, which is technically bullish price structure anytime where we flip previous resistance into new support. And if we're taking a look at the 8-hour time frame, obviously we have this previous ascending triangle pattern which broke out to the upside from this point of the breakout at around 2120, and right around this breakout, of course, that is where I entered my long position, which I shared here on the channel all the way back then. And as I also said, over the last 2 days, you can even take a look at my videos over the last 2 days, right at this exact high here, I said I am closing my long position. I'm closing a lot of that position and taking a lot of profits off the table. And so I ended up closing a lot of that position very close to $2,400, which once again is what I talked about over the last 2 days, right around these highs. And that is simply due to the fact that the price got very close to the technical price target. So I already began closing that position just in case we saw a large pullback, exactly like what we've now seen. And so obviously, if you followed that breakout trade, entering right around here and closing right around here, obviously you did very well. And of course, my stop loss was sitting in profits anyway. And once again, if you want to take trades just like this, then make sure to have an account ready to go on an exchange like Bybit or Bitflex, where you can claim those extra bonuses if you use those links down below this video. But basically right now, I am completely out of that long position in huge profits. And so of course, I'll be looking for the next trade to take, which I'll also share here on the channel as soon as things get more clear. Because obviously right now we have just had a major move. So usually we have some time to settle in the market after a major move. negative. And then moving forward, we'll see new signals and patterns begin to form, which obviously I'll share here on the channel. But at least for now, zooming into the shorter term, looking at the 2-hour time frame, obviously we do have this small bearish divergence still playing out as expected. And so like I've been warning about over the last 2 days, history is repeating. We're most likely going to see a short-term pullback in the price because that's exactly what we saw back here and also back here. But obviously with the latest pullback, it was a little bit more violent compared to one of these previous pullbacks, but either way, we still ended up seeing a pullback as expected. And it is worth mentioning that right now, the 2-hour Ethereum RSI is currently sitting in oversold territories for the first time since all the way back here, right at this previous local low. And so obviously with this previous bearish divergence, we saw a pullback over the next few days, and then the RSI entered into oversold territories close to a low, and then we bounced back to the upside. And so now obviously just because the RSI is oversold on the 2-hour charts, that does not mean we're guaranteed to see a bounce right now. And so in order to expect more of a bounce, I'd like to see the invalidation of this previous bearish divergence by seeing higher lows and higher highs in the RSI. Because basically, if we break out from this previous bearish trend into a new bullish trend in the RSI, once again, that is more of a bullish signal for the price. And especially if the price makes a lower low while the RSI makes a higher low, obviously that would be a bullish divergence to pay attention to. But at least for now, obviously, it is too early to tell if a bullish divergence will form or not. We're still in the early stages of that. So at least for now, in the immediate short term, we're still looking more bearish than bullish because this bearish divergence is still playing out in the immediate short term, just on the 2-hour chart. But remember, even though we're bearish in the short term, seeing a pullback right now, of course, this is occurring within a bullish trend here on the larger timeframes, like the daily chart and especially here on the weekly chart. But either way, if you want to know how you can profit from crypto, no matter if the price is bearish, bullish, or simply chopping around sideways, you can profit in either of those scenarios by watching these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how to make money if the price is bullish or bearish using AI, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.